We're going to call this little piece Pedicarbo ego vos et uramabo. We'll leave the translation for others. This is really just going to be an extemporized talk. The Spirit listeth where it will, and we'll see where it goes. Now I have my trusty notebook. Baby Derek is my guardian spirit, and we'll see where he takes us in his fermented madness and his ravings and sort of smegmatic frothings. But we'll start on a sort of opening, with an opening idea, an opening premise. We'll say, life is so abnormal. Now, my life isn't. The zone I frequent is divine, and so it's really exquisitely nuanced, highly intellectual, and full of amazement and wonder. But yours, unfortunately, I have to interface with. Now, my friend Marlon once said to me, "They're all scum-sucking pigs." Now, I don't quite know what he meant by that, but we'll take up the theme. Life is a form of abnormality, yours particularly. So, the heroine, therefore, the gods, we of higher status, are hard put to it, because, like you, we are encased in hideous pork and degenerative mortality. Until we die, this pigskin, this thing that we wear, is a hindrance, a burden, and a sort of, it's an excrementitious husk that we are forced to, that we're forced to inhabit. Okay, so we want to live in a place of perfect, true love. Now we actually inhabit this to some degree. It's our higher versions of humanity, properly so called, not subhumanity, which you frequent, where you slaughter each other, your own species, in great number, with a ferocity which is only can be described as demonic, like your master. But there is, as I'm trying to say, the world, Earth, is full of murderous fury. Now, the question arises, is this a furor divinus? Is this, as it were, something which has a foothold in the divine, or is this simply earth-like? Does one, as it were, cross over into other regions so that evil comes about? Now, I'm suggesting, as a Christian man, that evil is, it has a persona, there is a figure, the evil one. Now, most people, normal people, though there's no such thing as normality, most people who consider themselves normal, i.e. because they fit into the earth like a hand into a glove, these people, they don't even consider the possibility that evil in the world, its rapacity, its mutilation, etc., its atrocities, they don't consider the possibility that this is actually brought about by a puppet master who reigns over hell, called Satan. Now, that is, unfortunately, the case. Now, I'm just going to read to you a little bit from my notebook, so that it sort of engenders further discussion. I say this is a discourse because I want you to be shouting at your television sets or your computers. You've got nothing else better to do, surely. Flesh and bone is everywhere cruciform. Even the shape of man and woman is in the form of a cross. So you are born to be crucified, whether you like it or not, whether you consent to it or not, whether you believe in it or not. This is irrelevant, because your form is intrinsically, you are, as it were, nailed on the God within. You are, as it were, enmeshed with it in ways that can only be described as painful. Does the God beneath, therefore, this is what I'm asking, does that which is behind your outer form, does the inner man, the inner God, though it might be asleep in your case, does this, as it were, concur and or comport itself in a way whereby one's own demise is brought about. Now, you get an atheist cretin like Freud who said that Thanatos, or mortido desludo, death, is an instinct. We have an instinct to die, but elsewhere in his opus he said that instincts are unknown to man. We only know their surface effect, their drives or wishes or actions. We cannot even say what an instinct is, yet he posits a death instinct. Now I'm saying that death is not an instinct, it is, as it were, what you are. The immortal beneath will see to it that this mortal appendage or cover or skin, this noxious form of externality, will be subjected to death. Now you can say, okay, therefore you, as it were, you have a state, you're hooked into Lord Death, the Lord who is the Lord. Death is the Lord of you all. There's not one of you can escape it, and even great Satanists, on their deathbeds, have recognised they made a fucking terrible mistake. Now, of course, some of you cretini, imbecili, you're going to do this as well. You're going to sit there, you're going to wait there, and you think you're just going to slough off this mortal coil, and then that's it. Then it's everlasting nothingness, the everlasting nothingness that you came from, as it were. You're going to return to. Though, doesn't this strike you as extremely stupid that on one side of your life there was an absolute nothingness, and then despite this bifurcation into temporal existence, there was a continuation of this everlasting or absolute nothingness. It's completely and utterly stupid. But go ahead and believe it, you usually do. So, flesh and bone is everywhere cruciform. Does the God beneath, the God inside, kill its own flesh? A jolting, penile agony sent into this cross as a mysterious interface, as a critical dissociation, as an exoskeletal spiritual unit. In other words, if you get pain, and I'm trying to actually imply that what you call pleasure, you take sexual pleasure, isn't it congruent with expelling pain? Isn't that which is orgasmic also isn't it a coincidence of opposites? So I'm actually suggesting to you that what we call pleasure in an earthly sense is nothing of the kind. It is, as it were, more of a relief, which of course recurs and does us over again. Right, okay. Evil is what empirical science, cosmology, physics, evolutionary biology, genetics, sociology, behavioural science, most psychology either ignores or misinterprets. As or non-spiritual entities, individuals in these professions would not, for the most part, even consider the evil one. And yet it is their refusal to know or recognise his foul activities that gives evil its dominance in the world. In other words, I'm saying to you that most mortal individuals are merely sock puppets, or fuck puppets, or comatose marionettes in this huge psychodrama that results in the death of everyone. Many, many millions of them, or tens or even hundreds of millions, in extreme agony. There must be, if you think this is merely the result of arbitrary cosmological forces stemming from a material foundation and or base, if you think this, then the articulation of reality in all of its diverse and polymorphous effects, you're saying comes from a sort of a ground with no intelligence, then for you, evil has no solution. It has not only no solution in its counter, it has no explanation, explication, and or ways that you can actually think about it effectively. Now, the unremarked on daily slaughter the fact of the foundation, the fact that the foundations of the world are out of course, mutant, deranged, and glaringly insane, indicates Satan occupies and helps control minds which disobey Christ's edicts. Now, it's very simple. Christ is God Almighty or not. Most of you think not. Islam thinks not. Atheism thinks not. Positivism thinks not. Humanism, so-called, thinks not. You're all wrong. The death of enemies of the same species is achieved by historically rotating indictments, blame, ideologies, thus forcing down from the light of truth explanatory accuracy and realistic spiritual solutions into the filthy depths and demonic sewage of politics. In other words, the fact that you never even pause to think, why does this species, mankind, call it what you will, subhumanity as far as I'm concerned, why does this species slaughter its own members, not on a daily or hourly basis, but on a minute-to-minute basis, from time immemorial, from time projecting into the future? Why does it do this? And there is no explanation unless evil is, as it were, a thinking force. Now, I'm in the blessed position of having met Satan or confronted him on quite a few occasions, fairly recently. But let's get on to this. Only privatized paradises exist on wealth extracted from deadly wounds. In other words, the great slough of mankind, the great horde, the billion-fold run of humanity is, for the most part, hard put to it. Some appalling circumstances. Yet the rich think that money can, as it were, buy off wounds, death, agony, suffering. Not so. But this persistent idea that private wealth is all that is required for a few, some kind of monetary elect, as it were, to have it really cushy off the bones of the poor. It prevails and always has done in the world. Or nothing ever changes it. You are always ruled by a plutocracy, an extremely greedy, self-fattening plutocracy. Right. But these private paradises exist on wealth extracted from deadly wounds as false gods proliferate in the cesspits of existence. The idols of wealth and celebrity, built on the boneyards of innumerable victims who in their deeply insane minds laud and support and reinforce their own executioners under the banner of Satan. This is quotidian reality. This is what I live in every day. All of you do, but most of you are at best comatose, sleepwalkers, as it were, as if air is a narcotic. Enough.